Hey, welcome to Mayor's Update. I know it seems like we've been away. We're back for 1 week, and
Yep.
you were all thinking, "Oh, we're a little late. They're not coming on again."
Yeah.
No, we're back. We're back. We've got shows to do every Tuesday. We've got even next Tuesday set up already. But I wanted to welcome Kelly Ziegner from the CEO of the United Way Elgin Middlesex, right?
No dash in between the Elgin and the
No,
Middlesex,
no,
just for
no
reference.
dash. You can imply a dash, but we
Mhm.
will not put one there.
We don't want to do
Sometimes I'm dashing from.
No, for sure.
and from.
Middlesex
yeah.
to Elgin, Elgin to Middlesex,
Yeah.
and back. Right? This was part of what we did when we made it bigger and
Yes,
better.
right.
Kelly, you and I have known a number of years at the United Way, known each other, but we also, I mean, there's a lot of neat things going on. So we want to kind of ask you tonight about.
For sure.
It isn't your dad's old United Way or your mom's old United Way. It's morphed well into a new being. So
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about what the Elgin Middlesex United Way now is and does.
Yeah. So, I mean, starting back to when you talked a little bit, I've alluded to the merger in 2016. You were part of the board here in Elgin St. Thomas, looking to sort of improve the impact that United Way was having in this region and enter these conversations around a unification with the London Middlesex United Way. And those conversations are always challenging because I think a smaller community sometimes is worried that they're going to lose something in this merger. And what we've actually found is while the Elgin St. Thomas benefited from, a greater scope and scale and, technology and
a sharing of resources
all of
from
those
a bigger
things,
partner.
what we really benefited from the old sort of United Way London Middlesex was this really deep connection to smaller and rural communities that we got as a result of this merger because the entire board came over.
Yes. In the beginning, that's exactly how we merged. We said, let's all work together.
And the volunteers came. And so we got this really rich perspective and it's informed our work. And we're looking to increase our footprint with dedicated staff in Elgin and in Middlesex County, as well as those continued investments that we make in this region.
Right. Well, I want to remind our folks at home, Kelly's here for the first part of the show. If you've got questions about United Way, please let's hear them. Or if not, we'll certainly answer them before next week's show too. So, what's different?
What's different? Yeah. So one of the things that we've kicked off recently is called Make It Livable, and it's a campaign around social assistance rates. And this comes at the same time as Southwest Public Health has just put out information around food security and how challenging it is for people to make ends meet. And it all boils down to income. And that's one of the things that United Way has really been paying attention to. And, people know us from our fall campaign and all the great fundraising that happens and events like Harvest Lunch at Horton Market. And then in turn, we invest that money back out into agencies. Really, really important work. But what that is doing is, sort of addressing the symptoms of a bigger cause. And what's the root cause? It's poverty. And so we decided that our ask of the provincial government during this business cycle or this budget cycle would be for them to double social assistance rates because what happens at a provincial level with some of these policies shows up on the city streets here in St. Thomas. So, that is leading to people not being able to find adequate housing because they don't have adequate income. And that impact gets felt here at the municipal level. So it's really important for us to advocate for, those policy changes that were going to improve people's lives, but community life as well.
Okay. And we continue to work as a city, as a municipality, and my previous time with the United Way, even when in the days when we took over kind of the poverty side of the London piece too. It's always been a good conversation, and we always need to keep that conversation going. Obviously, we would love, like what we're doing here, that we can create employment for everyone, that is an employment base high enough for everyone to meet a living wage and also be able to, own a home or find places to live. That's the hope. Right? Hope for 10 years now.
Optimism.
Well, great, but we need to make sure that is also the case, right? So I love what we're doing from an advocacy point of view.
Yeah.
Right?
And it's that spectrum, right? So, home ownership and, really well-paying jobs that are coming to this community are really, really important. But, for some folks who, at the farthest end of the spectrum, living rough, trying to access
Right.
social services and getting them a income that's stable enough so that they can then plan for their future and that next step and employability. So, that's where we're sort of focused on that lower end of getting people employment ready so that they can fill all the great jobs coming here.
Right. And we, in my conversations with Mayor Morgan in London and the Mayor of Strathroy and other communities involved in our area, right, we talk a lot about that. And I was just over at the State of the City address for Josh. Mayor Morgan. I'm being too familiar with Josh now. But we really have talked about some of the differences that Southern Ontario is growing. And as we say, all tides rise all boats, but not equally yet. And, and as the mayor here, Grayden, you and I have talked a lot about whether we can every night we've got a bed for everybody who wants one. And you and I both know that's not always the case, but we can do that. London is not yet at that point and needs to get there and has been making really quick headway. And the other communities, the rural communities, are not as visibly affected by it, but still have the same levels of poverty you and I are talking about trying to solve. So tell us a bit about what United Way is doing, from some of the old-fashioned way. How are we helping local agencies do what they do best? Yeah.
So last year, in this community in Elgin County, over 3,000 people accessed programs and services funded by United Way, and they would include on the housing front, YWCA, the Inn, out in Elgin County, West Elgin Community Health Center, some agencies out in Elmer. So really helping to bolster that social service safety net so that there are places for folks to turn. And as you mentioned, like the differences in rural and smaller communities are a little bit different, right? There's barriers to transportation, to, get to doctor's appointments, to get to...
Well, and even food security is not as easy as we might think. Almost anywhere in St. Thomas, you can walk to a grocery store in a short period of time, certainly from living in downtown St. Thomas. So provided you have funds, you can find food security. But boy, you're from rural Elgin County, but it's a long way, and it might be just to a local convenience store, and it's not as easy as we would like it to be.
Absolutely.
But so we have to think of everyone in a similar way, but it's never the same way.
No. Right? And, what was really great about Elgin County was during the pandemic, how innovative agencies got about in particular food security and delivery of food boxes and checking in on neighbors. Like, I think that's that real small community.
It's true community effect. And we saw even in St. Thomas, many agencies or organizations making sure they were checking in on the ones that they'd now reached out to. So nobody lost a friend. Some people had company, but people also got their deliveries brought to them or their snow shoveled or whatever it might be.
Yeah. And in terms of events, during the pandemic, you had to shift a lot of events because we had some big fundraisers in St. Thomas that you weren't able to do in the same way.
Yeah. So that's been a challenge, and it still continues. I don't know if you're finding that here too. Like getting people back out of their houses into events is a bit of a challenge. But things like the Harvest Lunch with the campaign kickoff and other workplace events.
It was a noticeable start to the campaign. And it isn't the same even if you have 50 people on a Zoom. It's not the same. It's not the same 300 people we have at the Harvest Lunch to say, we're kicking off. Come on, help. Right.
Or when Angela DeVries got the bicycle.
And
then was auctioning it off at every different business after 5. And then people were raising money that way. And then those events all
you get unique.
It's
okay. You get unique.
But I think everyone experienced that fatigue. Like I wouldn't want to go to another Zoom.
I know. I'm done. I'm done with the Zooms if I don't have to. Like no one's like, oh yeah, put me on a Zoom call.
Well, I'm not disagreeing, but they are quite efficient for a quick meeting that otherwise you had to be face to face with. But I'm kind of tired of them too. I don't do my best shtick on a Zoom.
But I will say that is an area that agencies innovated. So, counseling agencies that weren't able to serve clients in, more remote areas in Elgin County, or even just in town.
Peer support groups.
People are able to, get counseling easy, or even the stigma of going to access counseling, if you're able to do it from the privacy of your home, is a great first
I think
step.
more people did take advantage of that.
100%.
I mean, that first time you've got to knock on a door at Stig or someplace else is not as hard as turning on your computer and being part of it. So
I definitely made a lot more meetings on time during the pandemic.
Yeah, we don't talk about Grayden's time with us. So it's a wonder we get on. We picked 6:30 Tuesday night because it's really easy to remember. Hands down, 6:30 is the right time. The hands are down.
There we go.
Okay, my only clock joke I have.
There we go.
Right. Okay, and so, but even last night we did another thing with the OHT on mental health and addiction, and it was a large group, but it was easy enough to do. But you know what's great about what you and I have done, or we have done in the past, or do now? It was a large, maybe 20 people on a Zoom last night. Yeah, I knew everyone but the two people who were presenting, because they were, they're from CMHA, you're from the police force, you're from CCHC, you're from, right? And that also helps. It kept us in touch with the people who are doing the heavy lifting in our community.
Yeah, and that rapid response, which was so critical, right, during that time. So, really thrilled with how agencies innovated, and there's good and bad things that came out of the pandemic. I think we all expected like the clouds to part, the sun to come out, pandemic's over, and we're kind of in a different challenge.
And all those things were true.
Yeah.
However, it didn't start a new tomorrow.
And,
it started a new tomorrow. Right. Rose says hi. Rose Gibson says hi.
Oh, hi, Rose.
And what that gives me a good thought. You still have people. There are people on the Elgin Middlesex Board of Directors that represent Elgin. Still,
right? We have Joe Montenay from the labor community.
Right.
Kate Burns.
Kate Burns, sure.
Gallagher,
sorry, she has a new last name. Like 15 years ago, but I can't call her anything but Kate Burns. So
so they're on our board, who still stay connected. We're out here. Actually, our team was out talking to Rose and did a little focus group on how we can deepen our presence and our impact here in St. Thomas. So we continue to have all those active conversations and lots of great corporate supporters still in this community who rise to the challenge every year with their United Way workplace campaigns like Masco and
even the city of St. Thomas. I've only been here 5 years, but there's an active group of what do you call them? Workplace committees. Right?
Campaign champions.
That just fantastic to have. So this is how the United Way always did work. Boy, I'll tell you, I have to go back 30 years now, or 35 years to my first time as the chair at the United Way, and spending early morning hours in Freightliner or in some of the other industries in town, or Steelway was always my favorite because they always had snacks. But you're right. But that's how we did it. We've put people to sign salary pledges or payroll pledges, and we sat there to do that. Now, great companies have great committees that do this, and it's always hard to find the next one.
And that's like recruiting volunteers across the board is a challenge right now post-COVID. I think all organizations are feeling that, and certainly we're not immune to that. So we're so grateful for the ones that continue to show up, and it's our job to find new ways to inspire people to get involved and support their community.
What events are coming up for the people that are watching? Like what's new? Are we having was the coldest night of the year?
Yeah, we're not doing that one anymore.
At all?
No, but we will have our Changemakers events coming up. We're just finalizing the dates and that's where we do a lot of that recognition of our campaign volunteers, including our campaign chair who was from Elmer, Mark Emanuel.
Mark was, and Mark and I talked 2 or 3 times, and even last week at Roma we talked. But and certainly tried to offer him all the advice I could. And then when he called, I couldn't answer my phone most of the time. But no, it's how it works. But having done it before, but he was quite excited about being the campaign chair.
Yeah, and he did a fantastic job, and really great for us to be back out in Elmer in that sort of concerted way. So great to have an Elgin voice heading up the campaign on behalf of the entire region. So
Yes,
it was great.
We but aside from the United Way, and not aside from, because it's always you can't tell your players without a uniform most of the time.
Yeah.
You and I are used to community events happening, and certainly community outreach happening in our community. In the last month, we've had a couple of times where we've had either building fires or over this last weekend an explosion at our supportive housing, where we've had to all of a sudden mobilize the community and do 45 people someplace.
That's right.
And you go, and I'll tell you as the mayor, you just gasp and then you smile because you see the immediate community outreach that says, we can help, we can help, we can help.
That's right.
All right. And we were at a fundraiser on Saturday night. Rose said she played a large role in the fundraiser. This is for the people in the Hiawatha building that had to be torn down because of the foundation piece. But there was a fundraiser there on Saturday night. We're happy to get out to it for at least a little while, Stephanie and I. So thank you, Rose. But community still amazes me.
It does.
Whether it's United Way or not, it still amazes me how you can pull together pretty quickly.
Yeah, for sure. As Mr. Rogers says, in times of crisis, look for the helpers.
Right.
And, that often happens when there's a desperate need and people sort of just roll up their sleeves and they get it done. And it doesn't matter where you are, like seeing the humanity and the good in people is so refreshing in today's world.
Well, sometimes you doubt it, and I'm sure
Yeah.
you do, and I do too. Sometimes I go, "Are we all alone in this?"
Yeah,
and then something big happens, and everybody's there, and it happens, and you see your friends from the Chamber of Commerce, or your friends from a downtown development group, or anything else, all pulling together to make it right for someone. So
it is incredible. You know, I worked for United Way like way back early in my career, left and did some other roles, but I always thought I'd come back, and it was because of the people, because of the volunteers and the people that raise their hand time and time again to make an impact in their community.
And how can people volunteer? If someone's looking to volunteer, how can they get in touch with the United Way to do it?
I see hands going up.
All right, we're taking down your names.
Yeah, we're getting names.
Best way to get involved is to visit our website, unitedwayem.ca, and you can find out, what's going on, what events are coming, ways to get involved. And of course, that advocacy piece that we're involved with right now, we're asking for people to endorse our recommendations to double social assistance rates and index them to inflation. And if you go to our website, you'll find a link there where it's sort of like signing a virtual petition to support those recommendations. So really important work, and we hope that people will visit the website and get involved.
Super.
Amazing.
Great.
All right. And are there any final words before we mosey on to the municipal politics side of everything on the show?
Well,
it is Mayor's Update.
Grateful to have the opportunity, and grateful for the leadership that's being shown in Elgin, St. Thomas in particular, around the housing and homelessness issue. Everywhere I go around the region, people are talking about St. Thomas.
How did they get there? Right, I got it. So, and it's because we have that depth of character in our volunteers. It just is. This council has been a godsend to me to get it done right.
Good
Kelly,
leadership.
we want to make sure we have you on just before the harvest lunch next year to really talk about the season. And it used to be far more of a campaign, but the season of United Way, so we can really share going forward too. So visit United Way's website. There's some activity for you there, and if you want to volunteer, please, they'll always find something for you to do.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? Yeah, it's how I was the first organization I've ever volunteered with in St. Thomas.
Oh wow!
Was the United Way. Tony from the day. We were doing some stuff. You should come to the United Way. Right. That fell into a
And the rest, they say, is history.
lifelong sentence. No, it's
Well, we often joke it's like the Hotel California. You check
Yeah.
out, but you
can
never really
leave.
leave.
Right. Thank you for joining
Yeah.
us tonight, Kelly. It's been great.
Thanks.
Kelly, thanks so much. We're going to throw to commercial, and then we'll get back into the municipal politics.
Great.
And we were meant to be. I feel it in my soul. Feel it in my soul. Never said.
It's behind.
And we're back.
See how quick that was? All right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you to Kelly for being here tonight and talking about all things United Way. But as I shared, there was some really big things that happened in our own community in the last week, besides Grayden's birthday yesterday.
Thank you.
Right. I mean, a great fundraiser at the St. Thomas Church. Chico Sanchez did a great job of gathering a group together. And it wasn't only him, of course. I mentioned Rose Gibson and a number of others. It never hurts when a community wants to get together and try and do something right. But at the same time, it was a day after we had another fire where 8 people became homeless on Jonas Street, and we're working hard on. They're certainly still housed today and are now finding homes for them. Then, of course, the Queen Street explosion. All are back in today, except for the 3 apartments affected by that explosion, and we've got places for them. So Indwell, I can't say enough about a great Christian charity like Indwell and all they do in our community. But boy, did they step up quick when one of their buildings had a little bit of trouble. And we got it taken care of very quick. No structural problems with the building.
That is a huge relief.
So that was released this morning, and we could put everybody back in except for those 3 apartments. And I expect they'll be turned over pretty quickly. So we're doing well. When a community can sometimes it's, I don't want to look at my phone. I don't know what's happened next. Right?
Well, that was my biggest worry. As soon as I heard that it had happened, I was like, the city had worked so hard, Indwell had worked so hard to get the people placed into those apartments with supports, and then to have a situation in winter happen where then they're all displaced.
Well, especially winter. I mean, we don't think it's any more pleasant in summer, but at least the weather is.
Yeah.
The great thing that happened at the Queen Street incident this week is our social service office is kitty corner to it, right there behind it.
Yeah.
And so we had a spot in the downtown at our social service. Everybody was invited in. There's 2 great washrooms there. Plus, we have a great community room there, and so that gave us a great staging area for the rest. So I'm so pleased, as the mayor of this community, when you see this come together.
Yeah.
Excellent. Right.
So what did you do when you got the call? Like, as a mayor, acting as a mayor, you get a call like that. What are your first steps?
Well, obviously they come to me pretty quickly, and this has happened. We know only these details so far because I'm kind of asked to be the spokesman if something like that happens too. So I'm quickly researching my own details in case someone from the press calls, but I'm asking questions back while I'm trying to do that research. Okay, what have we done with the people? Do we need buses? We have buses. Do we need that? Is the Red Cross or Victim Services, who else is involved from an on-the-ground approach? And then I feel pretty comfortable after I've gotten each of those things. But I was sitting with a number of my friends next door, and when I got that call, and I'm going, okay, I'm going to stay here. And I told the people who are sending me messages, I'm going to stay here so I can continue to answer. And if I need to go to the site, I'll go to the site. But mostly I get in the way. Nobody needs the mayor at the site. We've got the fire chief, the police chief, and all of the support agencies. And unless there's a large media presence or something that needs to be taken care of or away from the site, then I would wait till the next morning. But truly, if you will, sat up most of the night getting updates for a long time into when everybody else should have been asleep, and so that we knew where we might be the next morning, what the troubles might be. We had found an overnight overnight hotels and other things, but would that last the next day? So we were having those conversations even late into the evening and early the next morning.
And then you're organizing, as you were saying, like victim services to help
Yeah.
support the people. What other
Absolutely.
organizations are involved?
Red Cross, Salvation Army, you name it, on different projects or different. Sometimes they tag team off and on, and for different things. There was, if it's a group in a having to be housed in a location, they'll also need to be fed. They'll also need backup clothing, and so we have who we would talk to for each of those issues. So. I'm so proud. I mean, I don't want to name anyone because I'll miss, but there was such a great group of people who have helped in this last weekend, and even with the Hiawatha piece.
And then you were saying Jonas Street as well?
Jonas Street had a fire on Thursday night, more late afternoon, so we think it was probably a cooking thing, but that's, I try never to speculate because someone from the fire department is going to tell me for sure what it was or what the cause was. So I just go, look, at our biggest thing is making sure people are safe, housed, warm, fed, all the things that we should do as a community, and they were and are. So I looking for all of you watching tonight, say thank you to any of our support system, our police, our fire, our paramedics, and all of the emergency services like victim services and Red Cross and the Salvation Army. They all pitch in whenever they're needed, and nobody goes without.
Yeah, we have an incredible community.
Yeah, I swear by it every day.
Kelly was saying she came back to United Way because
of that,
and I came back to our community because of the same thing. It's just the people here.
And I find such a good solace here because the same thing is there. I'm proud of all of those that get all this stuff done, and happy to say, I'll just get out of your way. Let's make it work.
Yep. And Brett has a good comment here as well. Everybody's okay. Like, all these things happen in our community.
Right.
Every person was okay.
Right.
And that's one of the most important things.
Yeah, we've had a minor injury, I think, at the Jonas fire, and obviously there's a lot of heartbreak and trauma.
Yeah.
Right.
And
but
losing things.
We're not downplaying
horrible.
that, but many of these things can be so bad, specifically winter fires or that type of thing. So happy that we have all that. Right?
And Brett is also saying thanks to all the associated support services in our community.
Yes. Absolutely. And we'll recognize them over and over again. But there's been now 3 events that we, and look at even our building officials involved in the 2 of these, the Hiawatha event and the Queen Street event. And they're there late and early and trying to make sure we get people back to their apartments, or at least back to their pets even, as soon as we possibly can.
All right. And we've only got about 2 minutes left.
Great.
So we're going to run through a bunch of events.
Great.
The number 1 event that we want to talk about is Groundhog Day in St. Thomas.
Friday morning.
With Thomas the
groundhog, who's in the mural out back of Westlake Evans Park. We're going to be there just before dawn. And the mayor will suggest whether Thomas saw his shadow or not. We'll predict whether there's 6 more weeks of winter or an early spring.
Yep.
Right? So we're going to let Thomas the groundhog do it this year, and that will be our fun event. What else have we got?
We've got the Horton Market, of course.
Yes.
Every Saturday.
Yep.
Is a lot of fun. And then also Railway City Tourism has started putting out notifications of all the different events. So I share them up through Establish as well.
Yes.
And they will list every single event that's going on in St. Thomas if they've been told about it.
Right. And MyFM is picking up a lot of that too.
They have a great events calendar on MyFM.
Right. So don't wait for us, although we'll get the ones that are our favorite. Please go ahead and take a peek at either one of those. All right. If you're not following the tourism group on their website, that's a great place to hear what's coming up, whether it's craft shows or markets or whatever else.
And Elgin County is doing it as well. They started doing that in addition.
Good on them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can see it. It's all coming together, folks. If you want to know what event's happening, you can just pop on there. And we're about 30 seconds left on our time. We're doing really well.
We did timing really well this week.
Very proud of ourselves.
And next week, we got 30 seconds to talk that our guest next week is the fire chief.
Yeah.
Right. Dave Gregory will be with us to talk about all things fire or all things that are happening in the department. And really anxious to give him some kudos and talk about how his men and women played roles in each of these events.
Absolutely. It'd be really good to talk to him. And also, you can ask your questions as well live.
Right? Get ready.
And we can get the answers.
Right.
So prep them.
We don't need you to fire your questions at the chief. Oh, sorry. Was that too much of a pun? Yeah.
A couple quick final questions from Dale Cummings.
Yes.
Can the public get Freedom of Information papers from the city?
Yes, if you file through the clerk's office, but I think we're pretty open. Why don't you ask on Mayor's Update, and we'll see what you needed an answer for. We'll be happy to share with you all that we can.
Yeah. And then next question is whether or not Indwell is supposed to check each room weekly.
They run the Queen Street and the Rail City Lofts, and they have certain rules for their tenants and for their staff. These are people's private homes.
Yeah.
And I don't know, nobody comes to checks my home weekly. And so I think some of it is done by when we can.
Very good.
But we'll ask that question of Indwell. Maybe we'll have Indwell on again soon.
We should. We talked about that. That would be really, I think that once they've got everything sorted
out. Let them come back to, right?
They might need a minute.
Right.
They might need a minute.
Well, and as we announced the third Indwell building, and that's coming up soon, I think we'll have a good conversation and reason to have them on.
Oh, that's super exciting. All right. And Faye Gallagher is saying, have a good evening. Happy belated birthday, Grayden. Thank you. My birthday was yesterday. Super stoked about it. I'm 41.
41.
Yeah.
I don't believe you. We'll have to cut you in half and count the rings.
Super stoked. I'm mildly like, I'm over the hill. I'm going down.
Yeah.
And whether or not I'm coasting or it's uphill, I don't know. That's out for debate still.
I don't even want to describe my pathway right now.
Oh, man. All right.
Well, thank you all for joining, and we'll see you next Tuesday.